Hey there. This is a very exciting lesson and lecture on harmonizing, reharmonizing really, using non-diatonic major triads. This is the third in a series of little mini lectures that I've put together on reharmonization. It's a delightful practice. It's really wonderful, and it can help us as musicians develop our sound and bring incredible variety to our sound. So let's get started. Quick recap. Remember, in that first lesson we talked about only using diatonic triads and only keeping them in root position. So it limited our options. We had some variety. We were able to use a minor chord and a diminished chord and such, but we had to stay in that root position. The second lesson, I invited you to use that same technology, but to kind of polish it and make it much more mature and much more sort of varsity level sound by simply using inversions. Amazing, simple concept, and the concept of smooth voice leading. So that gave us a nice smooth sound to connect our chord choices. This one excites me the most because I feel like you and I were on the planet Earth, and then this just propels us into outer space. It's so cool. Non-diatonic means it's not in the key of C major. We had 3 major triads in the key of C, only 3. But there are many more major triads that we can tap into. So let's get started. Take a peek at that first attachment. It says exercise 3.1 and it says theory at the top. The top line, there they are. These are the C major, these are the diatonic triads found in the key of C major. This is right from lesson 1, not a big deal. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C major. And I've put a box around 1, 4, and 5 because I want us to be reminded that even if we stay within a particular key, gosh, we have 3 major triads. That's amazing. C major, 1, F major, and G major. So that's the first point of reference, hopefully review for you. The second point of reference, the second line down, says chromatic scale ascending and descending. But make note of this. This is gonna kind of open a new can for discussion. Is that on the way up, the ascending, you'll see sharps. C goes up to C sharp. D goes up to D sharp. E, F sharp, G, G sharp. It's using sharps. On the way down, it's using flats. B flat, A flat, G flat, E flat, D flat. And the point of this is, and you may want to write it down, you may want to just make mental note of this, is that in some capacities, in some contexts, in some examples in music, we refer to a note as a sharp, and in others we refer to it as a flat, even though it's the same note. That's the cool thing. And it's not only predicated on whether the line is ascending or descending. It could be the key signature that you're in. It could be the lack of a key signature that you're in. It could be that you're playing an atonal piece of music. It could be that you're playing a jazz standard and there's a key of the moment. Wow, I'm in G. No, now I'm in A flat. No, now I'm in a different key. It could be any number of reasons. Even in the huge classical world, same thing. We can even find this mixture of flats and sharps. For example, in harmonic minor scales or melodic minor scales. Let's go on. There's a vocabulary word that I want to share with you that is important. In the first couple of lectures, I use this word diatonic a lot, or in this case, non-diatonic. What does it mean to be in a key? What does it mean to not be in a key? And now I want to introduce a new word, which is enharmonic. So friends, if I play that note and I asked 100 people what the name of that note is, I'll bet you 50% would say, gee, that's F sharp. And the other 50% would say, that's G flat. And everybody would be right, 100% would be right. It's context that deems why we call this F sharp or G flat. It's context why we call this G sharp or A flat, etc., etc., etc. Third line down, enharmonic equivalence. Again, enharmonic means same pitch, 2 different names. This is enharmonic equivalence of triads. Here's the first example. F sharp, that's F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. Sounds like a major chord? It is, it's great. could also be called G flat major. G flat, B flat, D flat. Amazing. So far, so good. Not a big deal. At that point, it's just a very equal 50-50 choice. Do I call it F sharp? Do I call it G flat? And I'll give you a little hint. I'm going to make some decisions in a few moments here for the purposes of this lecture. So I'm just going down the bunny hole for a tiny, tiny bit because I want you to be aware of that decision. Second example, third line, enharmonic equivalence, second example. C sharp major, sounds like a major chord. Also known as, AKA, D flat major. But in this one, it brings up one of the criteria, one of the reasons why some people may or may not choose C sharp major. And that is a reminder to us that sometimes white notes can be called sharp or flat. So we look at this C sharp major, we say that's C sharp. This here is E sharp, and G sharp. One might ask, well, why don't you just call this F? Why do you insist on calling it E sharp? And one of the reasons is, and I'm glad you have the page in front of you, is that the visual rendering, when you look at the visual, you'll see that these triads are beautifully nice and neatly stacked. Line, 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 space, space, space. And I'll come back to that in a few moments as well. And if we called this F, when we wrote it down, when we write it down on the page, it will not have that crystalline, beautiful, symmetrical sort of line, 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 space, space, space shape anymore. And sometimes one of the things that we do as readers is to simply see a shape and know what that's going to be on the piano. So there's a certain logic to that. Not all the time, but there's a certain logic to that. So point to share with you, a sharp or a flat does not always have to be a black note. It could be a white note. Third example, line 3, third example. Here's an E flat chord, E flat, G, and B flat. Could also be called a D sharp chord. It could. It's rare, but it could be called a D sharp major chord. Here's D sharp. What do you call that? My goodness. D sharp. This is F double sharp, and that's that X with the dots in it, F double sharp, and A sharp. And again, this begs a different question. In order to preserve the logic of using every other note, I had to use a double sharp here. D, skip E, F, skip G, A, D, F, and A, yikes, can't hold them down, is going to also contribute to the logic behind how triads are built. Every other note, 1, 3, 5, in this case, D, F, and A. So when I plot it, if I took all those sharps and double sharps, and if I took all that stuff away, you'd simply see a D on a space, F on a space, and A on a space. That's visually logical. The letters are logical. D, skip E, F, skip G, A. We have had to add these sharps, and in this case, a double sharp. Okay, I'll cut to the chase and bring some closure to the first opening part of this lecture. Bottom of the page, line 4, it says, roots of major triads for this lesson, and I have made the enharmonic choice. These are the roots that are there. You can see that the C is filled in, the F is filled in, and the G is filled in. We've covered those 3. That means there are 9 other possibilities that we can use, that you and I can build major triads on right there in front of you. And you'll notice just to the right of C, I've used D flat. I've made that choice. I'm going to call it D flat, not C sharp. You can call it C sharp if you want. For the purpose of this lecture, I'm going to call it D flat. D natural, E flat could be called D sharp. I'm going to call it E flat for the purposes of this lecture. So I'll bring some closure to this at this juncture. Take a moment, pause the video now. Just take a moment to process, to look at this sheet, to remind yourself about these points that I've made. These are going to be sort of the pillars. These are going to be your support system as we move forward in exploring this reharmonization using non-diatonic major triads. Can't wait. More soon. right, let's get down to business. We have a lot of work to do, and this is fun work. My goodness, it's going to be great. If you remember on that first attachment there, 3-1, at the bottom, there was that little grid of the chromatic scale, 12 tones, and 3 of them had been built already. We had used those in lesson 1 and lesson 2, C major, F major, and G major. But let's endeavor such a simple task. Let's do this together where we're building major triads on the other 9 places. This is so cool. Here's the procedure I would love for you to keep in mind. First of all, for me, I would encourage you to do the same thing. Just a blank staff paper, just a blank grand staff. It could be the G clef, it could be the F clef, it could be both, whatever works for you. Not intimidating at all, just a blank piece of paper to start. And then secondly, just write the note upon which you want to start. It could be on a line, it could be on a space. In this case, just for the purpose of this discussion, I'm showing an E, that's a line in the G clef and a line in the F clef. Or an A flat, that's a space or a space. And then prior to worrying about flats, sharps, naturals, double sharps, prior to worrying about any of that sort of stuff, simply write 2 circles, 2 notes, 2 ovals above the given, making sure to preserve that beautiful congruity of space, 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 or line, line, line. At this point, it's not even a musical thing. I mean, if you can hear that as you're writing it, fantastic. But really, it's just like almost an art project or a geometry project. To write a triad, to write 3 tri notes, space, 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 or line, line, line. So easy, takes no brain cells. That would be the next step that I would encourage, the third step that I would encourage. And then fourthly, check for sharps and flats that may be needed. And here's the crux. The lesson that I want to share with you, the lesson I want to teach you is I can solve the creation of a major triad so easily if I measure in half steps. Here's the formula. If you have the given, whatever note you want to start on, start there and go up, travel up 4 half steps, and then travel up 3 half steps. It works every time. I don't care what key you're in, what planet you're on, it doesn't matter. It works every time. Given note, go up 4 half steps, and from that midpoint, go up another 3 half steps. Let's prove it. Let's do it. This is easy. And let's use these examples that I've sort of started here. E was the first one. If I'm at E, the given note, and I go up 4 half steps, that's up 1 half step, 2 half steps, 3 half steps, 4 half steps. From there, up 3 half steps. From here, go up 1, go up 2, go up 3. Presto, E major. Listen to that. Amazing. That's the sound. I can do the same in the left hand. I have done the same in the left hand. And that shows me that I need to add a sharp symbol in front of that G. So go ahead and do that. Add a sharp symbol in front of that G. And voila, we have E major. Let's do the next one. The one that's next to it is A flat. So the given was A flat. 4 and 3. Go up 4 half steps, go up 3 half steps. I'm going to do both hands. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. And then 1, 2, 3 half steps. There's that sound. I'll bet, it sounds like C major, F major, G major. It's a major chord. It sounds amazing. And this also shows us that we need to add a flat symbol in front of the highest note. Icing on the cake is to add some analysis to what you're doing, to, between the staves, to actually write the letter E, to say this is the chord, this is the triad E, to write the letter A flat, this is the chord A flat. We're going to do a ton more of this, but it couldn't be easier, friends. It couldn't be easier. Given note, go up 4 half steps, go up 3 half steps. It works every time. So take a quick pause for just a second, just take a quick pause for a moment and access or get the next exercise 3-2, and then we'll unpack that together, okay? All right, so I'll bet you have that in front of you now, this exercise 3-2, and this is the lesson. This is the crux of this reharmonization discussion. Let's take a look. Upper left-hand corner, you can see there's a D flat chord. And again, my procedure was I started with D flat, I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and I went 1, 2, 3. That's where I got D flat major. D flat, F, and A flat. There they are in the upper left-hand corner. You can see that it's labeled root position because it is root position. This is tertian. It's easy to see, space, space, space. It's all in thirds, D flat, F, and A flat. The second column is first inversion. If you remember from our previous lecture, take that bottom note. Let me make a correction here. I'm playing in the wrong octave. Take that bottom note and put it on the top. That's first inversion. Take that bottom note, put it on the top. That's second inversion. So there's D flat, so easy. Next line down, second line down. D is the given. The note D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. As you can see in the rendering that's on the screen there, that middle note, I had to modify that. I had to put a sharp symbol in front of it. This is D major. Take the note off the bottom, put it on the top. That's D major in first inversion. Take the note off the bottom and put it on the top. That's D major in second inversion. Amazing. We've already done, let's see, we did E and A flat, we've done D flat and D. We're racing through all of these other major triads. Amazing. I just want to take a quick pause to say this. You don't have to know all your key signatures in order to access non-diatonic chords. We can just use this simple formula of half steps. It's so cool. Third line, E flat. E flat's on the bottom. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There it is, E flat major. You can notice that, of course, the given was E flat. I didn't have to put anything in front of the G. I did have to put a flat symbol in front of the B. So this is E flat major in root position. Bottom note on the top becomes first inversion. Bottom note on the top becomes second inversion. Bottom of the page. There's another way to double check. And I mean, anybody can count 4 half steps and 3 half steps, but if you're familiar with the national anthem of the United States, we can use that as an oral point of reference, an oral example. Notice what I've written there is, right? Oh, say, can you see? And you'll see in the say, can you is an arpeggio of a C major chord. Oh, say, can you see? So as you go through this, for example, on this sheet 3-2, I could go to D flat, upper left-hand corner, and play the national anthem. Oh, say, can you? Isn't that amazing? Or here, oh, say, can you? Or E flat, oh, say, can you? Etc., etc., etc. I'll bring some closure to this little inner part of the lecture where you and I are examining and exploring the tools that are available to us. The lion's share of the rest of this lecture is using those new tools. It's so exciting. And here's the challenge that I have for you now is to pause this video, to stop it, and to print the third attachment, 3-3, and it says worksheet at the top, and it is a worksheet. So if you take just a quick glance at that, there are the remaining 6 major triads that we're going to need to access in this lecture. And so you have a little bit of homework to do right now, not for later, do it right now. And I want you to follow these directions, if you will. Solve only for the root position column first. Use that procedure that we used, which is I just have a note there, add a line to line or a space to space, a nice neat stack of triads. Do that first. Use your ear or count on the piano, up 4 half steps, up 3 half steps, and add a sharp or a flat if you need that. Double check your work by maybe playing Oh Say Can You See, by playing the national anthem, but complete that chart and then come back to this video. I can't wait to share more with you. All right, so let's keep going. This is super, super fun. I hope you're having a good time thus far. Man, I love talking about chords and I love accessing chords, especially for this lecture, this non-diatonic triads. Man, it's beautiful, beautiful. So, hope that was fun solving for the other 6 major triads. And let's keep going. Let's keep this discussion going. I'm looking at the attachment exercises 3.4. Exercise 3.4, this is a lesson, the crux of the lesson. And it is also just, in this particular example, it's just a reminder, pianistically speaking, so this is not going to really apply to any other instrument other than the piano, but hopefully if you're using piano, even if it's only for reference, even if you're only a writer or an arranger or whatever, and you're just using the piano keyboard for reference, this sheet I want to share with you because it has to do with memorization. Look, we now have 12 variables on the table. That's a lot to remember. And people's memories work in different ways. One aspect of human memory is a tactile one. What does something feel like? And so I want to contribute that just briefly, just a couple minutes to this discussion, because I feel like it will be helpful to you as you make some decisions when we do this example of reharmonization. First line of this worksheet, first line of this lesson, exercise 3-4. It has a C chord followed by an F chord followed by a G chord. Again, everything on this page is a major triad. C major triad, F major triad, G major triad, but I put them like that and I group them like that. It's called group 1 because they feel the same. That feels the same as this, feels the same as this. Why? Because in this land of black notes and white notes, this topography, I'm playing a white note, and a white note, and it's gonna feel the same. Next line down, group 2. If I play an A major, D major, and E major, A major, D major, E major, I get that same sensation, although the formula is slightly different. Not the formula for construction, but spatially, the formula, how my fingers are stretching here. I'm using a white note followed by a black note followed by a white note. A major, D major, E major. Same thing could be said for group 3, the third line down. This is A flat. A black note followed by a white note followed by a black note, which is going to feel the same as D flat major, which is going to feel the same as E flat major. And then lastly, at the bottom of the page, this is sort of the mixture group. These guys are unique. They beat to the sound of their own drum. This is G flat, black, black, black. B flat, black, white, white. And B, white, black, black. So I'll bring some closure to that, but I just wanted you to know that you may find that helpful. I personally do find it helpful. Piano is my primary instrument, and I rely on that. Gosh, C major feels the same as F and G. Gosh, A major feels the same as D and E. Gosh, A flat major feels the same as D flat and E flat. It helps me not only with fingerings, but it just helps me remember them, you know? So hopefully that will help you as well. Okay, let's keep going. Please take a peek at the 5th attachment, exercise 3-5, the lesson. This is it. This is the meat and potatoes. Here we are. Top of the page, should be easy to recognize, is Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I put a box around the first 3 notes, and then I put another box around the G that's happening about halfway through. And I took a look at the entire melody, the entire 8-bar melody, and I said, gosh, there's a set of notes that's used. Even though this is 8 measures long, there's really only 4 different notes that are being used. They are E, D, C, and G, and that's why I put a box around those notes. I just wanted to have this understanding, this entire melody, this entire song is really only using 4 notes. Okay, great, park that. Next line down. What you'll see before you there is this sort of a grid, this sort of matrix of all of the major triads. You can use this as a way to check your work on the previous worksheet. C major, D flat major, D major, E flat major, E major, etc. All of them. It has all of them. But there's a box around 3 of them specifically. And I put a box around that because I'm remembering the primary rule of reharmonization. The pillar of reharmonization is if I have a melodic tone, somehow that melodic tone should be in the harmonic setting. Tone in the melody, there needs to be one of those melody notes has to be in this chord that's down here. So as you and I sort of shop around and throw all kinds of options out there, let's at least pay some deference to that rule, which is, you know, this chord down here, whatever chord it happens to be, diatonic, non-diatonic, you know, that needs to at least contain one melody note so that there's some conjunct sound, so that it sounds like it's working together. Here's a quick example. One of them that I put a box around is G flat. So if I played a G flat chord, a G flat triad here in my right hand, and I played Mary Had a Little Lamb, remembering, this is going to be a little weird, not once is there a G flat, a B flat, or a D flat in this melody up here. But listen to how this sounds. So if you want to celebrate dissonance and things that are disjunct and jarring, there's your answer. But if you and I are playing a somewhat inside game and want to make some sounds that are mellifluous and sounding sort of conjunct and feeling together, we want to avoid those 3 instances. So they are D flat, G flat, and B. So we're going to take those off the table. Here's the point. We still have 9 options, 9, in order to accomplish reharmonization and also access this non-diatonic world. Amazing. So the 3 that we've always had in the first 2 lessons, C, F, and G, coupled with 6 more options, giving us a grand total of 9. So take a quick pause for a moment. You can pause this video. I would encourage you to do that and process that 4th handout and the 5th handout, the 4th attachment and the 5th attachment, how we memorize things, group 1, group 2, group 3, and also this sort of rule of like, what does it mean to have a melody note inside the chord choice, and study those. We are at the beginning of our reharmonization. So I'm excited to close up this lecture and finish it up. Here we are. Let's accomplish this reharmonization. This is super fun. So please have in front of you exercise 3-6. This is the worksheet. And in this worksheet, I've completed the first part of the song, and then I'm going to challenge you to complete the second part of the song. So here we are at the top of the page. It's the same process as we used in the previous 2 lectures. I have a place where I can put a chord, and I just want to make sure that that chord has one of the melody notes in it. So here, this first one, I'm using C major. That's not a big deal. That's what we had started with. But in the second measure, the melody is played E, E, E. And I now know from that whole grid of chords that we have created together that, gosh, I could choose a C chord, I could choose an A chord, or I could choose an E chord. Right? It's in all of those. In the C chord, the note E is the 3rd. In the A chord, the note E is the 5th. And in the E chord, the E is the root. So this is so amazing. I now have these amazing options, and I'm able to get outside of the key of C major for the first time. Amazing. So this, my song now, my reharmonization sounds like this. Wow, isn't that cool? I love it. Same game here. 3rd measure is D, D, D. Now you and I both know, could be a G chord, but it could also be a B flat major triad. And it could also be a D major triad. So I have these three options. Only one of them is from the key of C. The other two are from outer space. They're from a different land. I've chosen D. Now, at this juncture in the fourth measure, I must confide, this first example was using mostly whole notes, and I wanted to find an example that would use mostly whole notes because of the melodic structure and because I'm accessing things that are really from distant lands and distant planets. I'm bending that rule a little bit. So I'm going to do, and we did this in the first couple of lessons, Reharm 1 and Reharm 2. So I'm going to use a quarter note and a dotted half here so that I can separate the sound and have the sound be more in conjunction with the melody. So measure 4. The melody note is E. I'm choosing an E triad. Also in measure 4 is a G. And I know I have a G option, I have an E flat option, right? And I have a C option. I'm choosing E flat as an option. I did the same thing in measure 5. I'll speed along here. The note is E. I chose an E chord. The note is C. I chose an F chord. And then the remaining 3 measures are for you, dear friends, to complete. And you can complete them with a whole note. You don't need to make any modifications. So let me summarize this page by playing the second line down. I'll play the first line. Here's root position. Going to an A chord. Cool. Going to a D chord. Man, this is so fun. Here's where I bend the rules a little bit. An E chord to an E flat chord. Back to an E chord. An F chord. And then I'm excited to hear what you come up with for the remainder. Bottom of the page, this is where we go to the use of inversions and smooth voice leading. It's going to sound a little bit more polished, a little less jarring, a little less jumping around, kind of bring some cohesion to the sound. Here it is. Same chords, same exact chords as I used above. I'm now just using inversions and smooth voice leading. Not a big deal. My goodness gracious, forgive me. There it is. And then I'll ask you to complete those. I love that. I just love it. I'm playing that second line again. I was adding getting carried away. I was adding a few little accompaniment things with my left hand, almost Alberti bass style stuff, but you can see where I'm going with this, right? I mean, it's just the most delightful thing to add these new harmonic settings to the party. What you do with them from there is uber fun. I mean, oh my gosh. Arpeggios or different forms of accompaniment or different chord constructions. Oh, it's just delightful. Okay, let's move on. And finish this guy up. So the second page to exercise 3-6 is also a worksheet, and as you can tell, just at a quick glance, that the left hand is all half notes now. The rules are the same, the procedure's the same. It's just the same. But now we have more options. So wonderful. I'm deciding to start this one with E major. I love it. Melody note is C. I have the choice of a C chord, choice of an F chord, choice of an A flat major chord. I've chosen A flat. Wow. Second measure, C chord. That's an obvious choice. Here, I have on this E, this is the second half of the second measure. Could be a C chord, could be an E chord, could be an A major chord. Could be any of those because all 3 of those options have E in them. I chose A. Measure 3, the note is D. Could be a G chord, could be a B flat chord, could be a D chord. I chose D. Also in that measure, I chose a G. Next measure, this is the fourth measure. The melody note is E. Could be a C chord, could be an E chord, could be an A chord, could be any of those major triads. I chose C. End of the fourth measure. There's a G chord, could be a G triad, could be an E flat triad, could be a C triad. I chose E flat. Here is the first 4 measures on that top line, example 2, using half notes. Delicious. Amazing. Here it is at the bottom of the page. Same chords, same harmony, with inversions and smooth voice leading. Love it. I'm going to play that one last time. This is nearing the end here. I'm just using a simple ascending left hand. Oh my gosh. It opens up a universe of doors. It's just incredible. It's just incredible. I'm challenging you to complete that worksheet and to choose some adventurous chords, I hope inventive chords, I hope fun chords. In each of those cases, you'll have 3 options. I think 3, at least 2. No, you'll have 3 options in each of them. It'd be so interesting to hear what you come up with. And then lastly for today, friends, there is a 7th attachment. It says exercise 3-7, and it's just posted as an appendix. Take a peek at that when you will. You know, I've kind of gone through what I believe almost every possible outcome of a major triad there is, including C flat and E sharp and these sort of rare things that are really the same logic. If you look at that sheet, even though it's a C swimming with flats and double sharps and all kinds of crazy stuff, at the end of the day, if you took away the chords and you took away the chord names and you took away the sharps and the flats, you would still see space, 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 and line, line, line. It would still have a tertian rendering there. So bringing a tiny bit of closure here. Gosh, I hope you had a good time. I had a ball. I love this stuff. I could talk about reharmonization all day long. I hope this brings happiness to you, and I hope it brings options to your playing and to your writing. And gee, this was really swell that you spent the time. So have a great day. I hope that you find this to be really helpful.